networking, network, support, and grow with the leaders. Currently, all are muted, and we will have we will be giving an opportunity to speak to our guest, Mr. Zaved Akhtar, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director at Unilever, Bangladesh. That's where we call leaders create more leaders. But before that, let me also share that we are all currently live on LinkedIn, and this episode LCO83 is being recorded. For the visitors who are joining for the first time, this may also be a reason for you to know that it's a click on WhatsApp, FB, and LinkedIn on the chat box to get updates on weekly basis and join us in creating more leaders. Also, we request all the members and visitors to keep your videos turned on for some time, which will help us to make the episode highly interactive. Kindly do so, please. If we're ready and to interact and begin with the session, I would request you to put a yes on the chat box so that I get an invitation and intimation that we can begin now. Thank you, Archana. Thank you. Before the introduction of the guest, let me also take a privilege to introduce the founder of the Leaders Connect, Mr. Prakash Sharma. And I shall now request Ms. Varsa Nishanth, the panel discussion leader, to lead the panel and to begin with the interaction session. Thank you. Welcome. I welcome once again everyone. Hi, Archana. Hi, Varsha. We can begin the panel discussion now. Thank you all.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Bhavini, for the
Good
warm
evening,
introduction.
Varsha.
Sorry.
Good evening, Varsha.
All right. So we welcome our guest of honor, Mr. Zaved Akhtar, and author Ms. Meera Bharat, and all the leaders to our 83rd episode of Leaders Connect. It's my privilege today to be a part of the panel discussion along with Mr. Zaved. So I'm sure each one of us are excited to know more about his journey, his experience, and I'm sure this session is going to be of real value add to each and every one of us joining us today. So to know more about our guest of honor, we request Mr. Arul to share the video introduction of Mr. Zaved. Over to you, Arul. Let's have now a short clip of the professional experience and the journey of Mr. Zaved, which will help us to get an overview, and then we will have live to hear from Mr. Zaved about his leadership journey. So over to you, Arul. We welcome you, Mr. Javed. So I hope I am audible. Yeah, great. So we are not able to hear you.
You are. Good evening.
Very
you
good
can't
evening.
hear me. Good evening.
Very good evening. How are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. I'm good, thank you. This was the most hippest and fanciest introduction I've ever had. So thank you so much for welcoming me, and wonderful to be here today evening.
Pleasure to have you around with us today. And thank you for taking your time out to join us today on this beautiful evening. And I'm sure it is definitely going to be much more enriching, insightful, and enthralling as well. I'm sure each one of our viewers and also people who have joined us today are looking forward to hear your journey of the leadership, which has started from, the topic really says a lot about managing from being a marketer to managing a mission. So let me not take a more time here, and we would love to hear from you to know your journey, how it was from managing marketing to managing mission. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Can I share the screen? Is it possible?
Yes.
If you could have that, I just have a few slides and probably best way to talk about that. Yeah. And I hope I can do justice to what you are talking about. I hope you can see my screen now. It should be visible. Yeah.
It is.
Okay, great. Can you see it? Fantastic. Brilliant.
Yes, it's visible.
So the whole intent is around giving a bit of perspective about managing marketing to mission. Quite an interesting title, I must say. And I'll give a bit of perspective around the business and how at Unilever we look at it and my leadership reflection on it. And I hope that will take us around 20-25 minutes. A bit of, before I get into the company, I think a bit around Bangladesh. Bangladesh, as you know, has congratulations, because India has just finished its 75th into 76. Has been a fantastic journey so far. And equally, last year, Bangladesh finished its 50th year of independence as well. Now, if you look at the country over the last decade or so, and one of the things you'll see is 5 decades, it's sort of the first decade or so, it started with a very difficult journey itself. But over the years, what has been consistent, despite all ups and downs, that the country continuously kept on growing, and it kept on adding GDP. So from starting from 2-3% in the early 70s, as it went through the rest of the decades as well, kept on growing. And with the last one really coming of age, where we are in a phase of graduating from what is the LDC club to the middle income country itself. And Unilever Bangladesh journey has also been very similar. We have been operating in this country for more than the country actually is, 60 years. And it's actually one of the unique companies where the government of Bangladesh, interestingly, owns almost 40% of it. As a company, 9 out of 10 Bangladeshis use one or two of our products. Roughly 60% is the market share, and 500,000 retailers are retailers we touch every day. And the business is largely a home personal care and beauty and well-being business. We've got a small nutrition business. If you know, a few years back, we had bought the GSK business and the Horlicks business. So that's the part of the business that we operate and run. And if you look at this company over the last 6 years I talked about, we've actually been continuously sort of creating our path and journey over the years. And if you look at from establishing the factory in the 1960s to over the years, really innovating and growing in and launching different aspects. We were the first company which actually launched detergent powder in this country. We actually launched many of the personal products in this country over the years as well. So if you look at, we have been pioneer across many of these over the years as we went into the country itself. And as the country grew, it actually grew because we've been actually ingrained and very much part of what the country is. In fact, I don't think Unilever Bangladesh was never not part of the grain of the country itself. And if you look at what we do as a business, our whole purpose as Unilever Bangladesh is how do you really make sustainable living a commonplace? And that's the fundamental philosophy of Unilever and Unilever Bangladesh. And we've talked about brands that with purpose actually grow, companies with purpose last, and people with purpose thrive. And these are the 3 philosophical beliefs that we believe really helps us to really grow this organization and drive it. So let me sort of break this down. What do I mean by this? The first one is brands with purpose grow. And if I look at brands with purpose, what we mean is that brands need to inherently really have a positive impact on the people in the society and the environment it operates in. The only reason for brands existence is not just shareholder value, rather the whole reason is making sure that we're able to really get into a huge impact in the in our society. And the reason is also very selfish, I will always say, because if I look at brands that actually, and this is a research and as well as empirical evidence, where we know that brands, people actually want to buy more sustainable brands. And we also know for a fact that our brands that are sustainable, that are purpose-led and rooted into it, into doing something positive for the society, community, and the environment, actually grow faster as well. And we have, over the years, we've done lots of these things across the country, the breadth and the length of the country. What you see on the left-hand side, I'm sure you are aware of Lifebuoy as a health soap itself. So what we've got is a floating hospital, and that runs, as you know, Bangladesh is in a delta. It's got large and big rivers. And within these rivers, there are what we call chars, which are technically islands within a river. And it's very difficult to get healthcare. So we've been running this floating hospital in the north of the country, what is the downstream of the Jamuna. So on the downstream of Jamuna, actually there is the Lifebuoy French Hospital operates. We've also been running lots of other programs around the Lifesaver program, where we actually make sure, well before the whole awareness came around hand washing during Corona days, how do you really start using proper hand washing and stuff? Brands like Surf Excel make sure that you're able to really get people to learn their values. When Pepsodent has actually been at the forefront of really driving oral hygiene in this country. 20 years back, or 22 years back, I used to be brand manager of this brand. And if you look at the penetration of this brand, used to be, not the brand, the category used to be around 12, 13%. Today, it's almost universal. And over the years, this is what the company did. By making sure you heighten the awareness around oral hygiene, it actually helped people to really improve their oral hygiene. Now, if you look at Pureit, which is obviously, it's a large business here as well, we've actually been able to give access to clean water to as low as 50 paisa a liter, which is obviously gives significant value. And of course, of recent, there is obviously the Horlicks business, where we'll be able to really provide good nutrients to the business as well. And what we've done is obviously do it in scale. So we've actually gone Lifebuoy over the decade or so, more than a decade. We've actually reached out to around 30 million students, almost 15,000 million water we've actually given away in safe water, as well as more than 1 million where we've actually helped people in driving sanitation. There's a small AV that talks about, that will bring about how we've actually been ingrained in terms of really driving the purpose within our brands to really help the country. I'm hoping that it works. It should give you a good perspective.
Zaved, is there an audio for the respective? Does the video have an audio clip as well?
Yes, it does. It does. You're not able to see it? Sorry, my bad then.
No,
just give me a
we are
second.
able to see it,
I think
but we are unable to listen it if there is a video. If there is,
I know there is sound actually. Yes, you're right.
There is sound. Yeah, we just check that as well.
So let me just, sorry about that. I realized.
Yeah, that's fine.
Put that, yeah.
Yes.
Victory tastes the best when it comes against all odds. Bangladesh is the perfect example of such a success story. From being a basket case to being one of the fastest growing economies in the world, we have come a long way. In the 5 decades since independence, the country has made substantial progress. In the last decade alone, the country has achieved multiple Millennium Development Goals. Unilever Bangladesh believes that whatever is good for Bangladesh is good for Unilever, and hence has been an active partner in Bangladesh's journey by building brands that bring a positive change in society. Leading the way in health and hygiene is Lifebuoy. Since its inception, Lifebuoy's hand-washing program has taught more than 11 million children the importance of hand washing. The Lifebuoy Friendship Hospital has given more than 1.5 million people in chore areas access to a fundamental health care. The brand has helped the nation make significant strides in fighting child mortality and achieving its Millennium Development Goals. Female participation in the workforce was minimal even at the turn of the century. Glow and Lovely Careers has helped 100,000 women receive quality career guidance and skills. With its relentless purpose-led communications, Glow and Lovely has given confidence to the women of Bangladesh to overcome obstacles and pursue their dream, helping Bangladesh become a global leader in female workforce participation. Unilever has always stood with the people of Bangladesh. All the brands thrive on a unique purpose that contributes to the betterment of the country. With Vaseline Healing Project, we have been providing skincare to the underprivileged. Pepsodent has educated more than 9 million school children on the importance of oral hygiene. Pureit safeguards more than 7 million people with safe drinking water. For a country once known for its malnutrition, Horlicks helps provide balanced nutrition in more than 7.2 million households. With purpose at heart, Unilever plays an integral part in the rise of Bangladesh. Being a part of Unilever, you are not only building a career, you are building a nation. Are you ready to be part of a nation-building journey? Bangladesh, rising with you.
So I hope that gave you a bit of perspective, and that's what I was talking about. That as an organization, when you build your business around building the country, you actually see a huge amount of return. Now, that was about how brands actually really drive purpose. Now, I talked about people that thrive with purpose. And one of the important elements around this whole thing is how do you really build? And this is what we call the standards of leadership that we build. And what we say is that really to make sure that you really drive, you must play an inner game where you actually build your personal mastery, purpose and service of why are we really driving it, agility in terms of constantly being curious and courageous how you drive it, and the outer game, which is all around how do you really build business acumen, be a talent catalyst of growing people, become and really have strong love for your consumer and drive it, and finally passion for high performance. And underlying all of these are respect, pioneer, and integrity, because that's what really drives. I'm going to talk a lot about on my reflection when I come on later on, but this is critical to really driving your own purpose of how you drive. And if you look at our mission is always about how do you really make our people make more possible every day. And in terms of driving, we actually talk about how do you really deliver performance while at the same time you really transform. And this is really critical in terms of how we build purpose for our people. Now, quickly shifting my gear, I talked about brands with purpose. I talked about people with purpose. Now, this is about companies with purpose. And the important element is as a company, we must make sure that in addition to the shareholder value that we create, we must be able to create a positive impact to the society itself. Now, one of the biggest things that we do is we cut across all this organization where we really make sure that we have a positive impact, whether it is during COVID, where we actually partner with different partners, making sure that you're able to support, to giving oxygen concentrator across the whole country itself, or really making sure during floods or any of the aspect, our brands actually play a positive role itself. Now, one of the there is one of the important elements that we really drive and build is actually plastics. And what we do as an organization, we actually make sure we play a critical role to really drive our plastics agenda up. And in Bangladesh, Unilever Bangladesh makes sure that we build the biggest and the best plastic agenda in this country. And we have now got an ecosystem where you're able to now collect. And the ambition is that by the end of the year, we'll almost collect 50% of the plastics that gets produced by us. So obviously our products actually have that. And it's important to making sure that we really enable the system and bring that all into, make sure that it doesn't go into the landfill, and we're able to really bring into the circular economy itself. And that's how, as company, we make sure that we are having a positive impact. And that's holistically make sure that as Unilever, you become a superlative performance organization. And this is what the impact has been. And if I look at 2022, when we have actually been able to pull all of this together, the biggest thing has been that this has been the best performance. And as I said, the whole thing about from marketing to mission is making sure that when you build a purposeful organization, when your brands have a positive impact, when people have a purpose to be driven, and when you actually have a company that actually focuses on it, you really see performance gets delivered. And that obviously is a critical part of what we do and how we drive it. What I'll do right now is just give you a bit of reflection over the years. I've been leading this business also for a year now. Also, I've been with Unilever now more than 22 years. a bit of my leadership learning as I have done and gone through it. One of the important elements is that we need to make sure that we are very honest to what is possible, what is not. And it's not as a leader. There's a lot of weakness that I have, and it is very important that we actually have a positive attitude to making sure you can lead the team to deliver things, because it's not an easy thing, and there are times that you'll fail. But what is really important is making sure that you make people get excited about delivering and driving it. But we also make sure people are conscious of the challenges that lie ahead, so that people are able to articulate and address their challenges very well, and you're able to lead them. Very important element as you really drive and drive both of these: the ability to get people to be positive about getting things done, but also be cautious of the challenges that they may actually have. The other thing is the whole space of prioritization, because it's very important to get the organization get focused on it. And when you rally the whole organization to say this is the priority and this is where your high priority and high impact work is, that's when people drive. And the third one is excellence over perfection. Now, this is a bit of controversial thing, but I personally believe that strive to really deliver excellence, because a lot of time we end up being perfect, but for the last few percentage of perfection, you drain a lot of energy. If you actually focus on excellence, it really makes it critical, and you see a lot of difference from people in terms of their delivery and outcome itself. An important element for the whole thing is we delegate authority, but what we don't delegate is accountability. So I delegate the authority to my team to collectively drive and focus and really drive energy behind it. But what I don't delegate is the accountability of it. So if things fail, the accountability is with me. It doesn't get delegated. So, and that is really important, because what we must have is empowerment for the business to really drive things, and they must have the psychological safety to drive this. But obviously, when I have accountability of it, then they have a lot of psychological safety to really drive it and build it up. An important element is the right people at the right bus, and that's actually absolutely critical, because unless we really do that, we will never be able to really get it right. And a lot of times it's a very difficult thing, because many cases you will have to take that call that because the person is not convinced on the overall strategy and priority. And that, I think, is extremely critical to making sure you get people either on board and see what your vision and dream is, or you make sure that if they aren't, then they actually get into a different bus, because that's probably when the person will thrive and grow significantly well ahead of what it is. Another important one, I personally believe, I try to play golf. Now, one of the big thing about golf is that golf is never about the person you play with, it is about yourself. Every time you're playing, you actually have to really make sure that you are able to beat your last handicap and you're able to really repeat it. And that's what critically about performance is. Performance is all about how do you really drive excellence within yourself. You're competing against yourself and you're setting the standard to really drive it. And that's when really world-class performance comes. And that's when you really inculcate and build what I call is a growth mindset, where you look at every opportunities to really identify how you can grow and drive business. A lot of time in our business, we actually focus on why we can't do and why there are logic for really not delivering performance and what are the constraints. But if you really ask yourself that, listen, it doesn't matter whatever we work with, but the point being that we need to win the battle of mind to really grow and drive business. That is when we'll see a lot of these opportunities absolutely unleash and really drive. And that's why it's critical to really drive a growth mindset in your business. Now, in order to drive this whole growth mindset, an important element is, as an individual, you can do up to a certain point. You need to build a coalition of the willing. And that's exactly what we do. We have in Unilever what we call the Unleash program, where we have the top 50 of my team who are part of this change management program. They are my coalition of the willing. They collectively sit together and try to make sure that they are able to really drive growth and build our businesses. And that's what makes a huge difference in terms of what we deliver. And that becomes a critical transformation agent for the organization and for the business itself. And as we do all of this, one of the important elements is really making sure we have a hunger inside. I think over the last 25 years that I've been in FMCG, not a single day I have been bored, because I've learned so much. Even today, I was out whole day. I've learned so much in terms of really driving transformation for this business, in terms of really driving education and really stepping up. And I think when we have a hunger, we grow. And that's when we make a huge amount of difference of how you really drive and build a brilliant business, a brilliant team that really focuses on really driving excellence within the business itself. And finally, the importance of values in our whole ecosystem. It is such an important to making sure that we understand the value of values, because unless we really respect and have high standards of ethics, have high standards of respect for our colleagues and honesty, integrity. And if you remember when I talked about the standards of leadership, one of the important elements of our inner and outer game is having really, really high standard of our code. And it is really critical, especially in our top part of the world, where we know the environment is not perfect. It is so important for us to really drive and build really the high standards of values. And that what is really critical and differentiates from the good to the great. And finally, I personally believe that if you really, really dream about something and you can really dream big enough, large enough, you can really make it happen. And you can collectively have a huge impact in terms of how you really build a wonderful business itself. And that, I think, concludes my monologue. If there's a question or anything, I'll stop sharing, and anyone on the floor and anything that you have and your reflection and thoughts on it. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Go ahead, Varsa.
Wow. I think that was a lot more for us to process and we want to take back as well. In a very short time, you have given us a lot more understanding of right from Bangladesh is how it is, gloriously developed. And I'm sure there is a lot more coming up there, and how Unilever as an organization has been so closely connected, being a part of developing the nation altogether, developing the country altogether. So a lot of takeaways, I'm sure, and that was something very insightful. I'm sure the way your leadership journey has been, I'm sure there would have been a lot of milestones to thrive as well and to build resilience. So if you want to mention something as how did you manage to build that resilience within you to ensure that to drive the purpose-driven leadership journey, having the bigger dream to achieve it, I'm sure resilience play a very critical role there. So if you can share a little more on that, I think that will really help us.
Sure, absolutely. I think a wonderful question, Varsa, because I think the best time are the worst time for anyone. Because one of the things that you really need to do is you need to self-motivate yourself to start with. Because during the most difficult and the worst time, unless you're able to really self-motivate, you're unable to really take the team along. Because imagine this way, when things are down, when the chips are down, and there aren't moments when they are, I think the important element is how do you really pick up your team and make sure that they are still walking along. And the important element is actually absolutely taking self-motivation. And that takes a lot of mental ability to really find an inspiration. And I'll tell you where I find a lot of this inspiration. Because when I sell a bar of soap, I don't think of just a soap, because half of my soap gets sold in rural Bangladesh, where a woman takes a bath in an open area. I mean, we are fortunate enough that we actually have our own confined areas in a bathroom and a toilet where we to take a bath. But when someone takes a bath, I need to design a product which actually delivers to their need, because that woman takes a bath late in the evening or very early in the morning when there are very little footfalls. So we need to design a product that delivers, because she probably has a 5 minutes window to take a quick bath and get out of the way. And I think that's where it inspires me, because we design a product that delivers to these needs of these people, because I think that's where my joy lies. And that's where the inspiration lies, to seeing through. Because then you realize that when you put in that context, the trouble that I have to running a business or my team has is very small.
I think the bigger picture is again about how this product can make a difference and it can make easy for people's life. That is really the greater inspiration. I think each one of us leaders in our respective domains, in our respective industries, we can also connect to this as what is a bigger picture we can have it in mind to continue this inspiration and that can ignite us day in and day out. Thank you for sharing that insight, Mr. Javed. One other thing that really hooked me is about when you were talking about the inner game and the outer game, and you had mentioned about the personal mastery. So how do you drive this personal mastery again into your zone of people and in Unilever, how this has been, done about it, and how does it make a difference? Because I think everything starts from inner to outer. I think that's where a lot of difference can happen.
Yeah. So it's I think one of the thing about personal mastery is in today's world, we tend to have a lot of it and we need to cover a lot of it just because how it's well designed. But what the important elements are that we must definitely have depth, and because that expertise on a certain thing, so which is almost like a T capability where you've got a width of things that you know, but there's specific depth that actually helps you to really get a competitive advantage. And the way you drive personal mastery is a lot to do with how you practice it, because the philosophy of us in terms of really driving our capabilities up, there is no magic wand that I can give you, or there is no medication I can give you and suddenly that comes up. And the only way it comes up is when you keep on practicing and practicing and doing it. It's like how we aced exams as well. When we did all of this, the personal mastery only comes when you're able to really practice and really drive it hard. And when you really make sure that you build it as a part of a DNA, that's when the whole difference comes in, because you build it, you know that. And if you remember that golf example that I gave, every time you actually challenge yourself that, listen, how can I actually ace what I did last time? That's when you start really building, because you realize that you've not reached, and the reality in golf is that probably nobody becomes a Tiger Woods, isn't it? And everybody aspires to be one, but that just doesn't happen. And you really need to beat your best performance, which if it was the last performance. And that's how you start building those muscles within your system.
Beautifully answered. I think, the key lies here is about practice, and that can really drive us and help us to enable us to become, a better version of ourselves in every aspect. Thank you for sharing again your insights on this question. It was absolutely a great privilege for me to interact with you today and be on this platform joining with you, alongside with you. Thank you, Leaders Connect, for giving me an opportunity. And I now hand it over the forum to Prakash to take it over from here.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Varsa.
Yeah, thanks very much, Varsha. And Mr. Javed, thanks very much. It was an awesome discussion. Your experience, you've been able to share the 10 bullet points, and that's what we called as your learning from managing marketing to managing mission. And in 10 bullet points, awesomely shared specifically with great clarity. Good. So that's been nice, and thanks very much to all the leaders who are here. We got connected through Zaved, through LinkedIn, and thanks very much. It's been great pleasure that you've taken us an opportunity to come over here for. And we just have a couple of more minutes as we have an option for open questions now. So all the visitors and members who are here and the guests or leaders who joined us today recently, we have now the option to ask open questions to Mr. Zaved More. There are two ways of it. Either raise your hand and we give you an opportunity to ask question, or you can write the question in the chat box and we unmute it, or we take it on your behalf to Mr. Zaved. Followed by that, we have an author of the week, Ms. Meera Bharat. Thank you very much, Ms. Meera, for joining us, which will be taken shortly, one after the other. I hope, Mr. Zaved, I already see a couple of hands are already up. They'll be asking you a couple of questions. So we just have a few pointers which we'll be able to do it, and then we move ahead. So let me take the two sets. Anuradha and Devran already shared the hand and raised their hands. We'll give you an opportunity, and two questions in the chat box also. Quickly, we will do that. But before that, as a part of the process, let me share as we also conduct a quiz every week after week, so to also appreciate our members who come regularly and participate in the quiz. So definitely, so this year is where the quiz. For the quiz, I request Mr. Rangarajan to share a quick quiz. And the key pointers about what Mr. Zaved told about your success journey is where the quiz is going to be conducted, Mr. Zaved. So that's when I request Mr. Rangarajan to quickly ask the quiz question and over to all to answer it on the chat box. So Rangarajan, ready for the quiz? And so, yes, go ahead. Yes, Rangarajan, please proceed.
Yeah, I'm just switching off my video. Okay, the question is in the starting, Sarah has told the company's purpose. Three purpose was there. What is the company purpose to make the sustainable living in the common place?
Wow, that's a great question. All three purpose, which he has told, and that's what the whole drive was happening. So Varsha says, brand with purpose, grow. Oh, already. And answer the chat box. So Rangarajan, answer the chat box. Any answers you feel now quickly? You can share.
People with purpose, three brand.
Yes. So all the three wonderful answers are coming up. Thanks, Anuradham.
Sendil has told the correct answer, all the three.
Wow. Mr. Sendil Kumar, correct?
Congrats, Sendil sir.
Great. Thanks very much, Sendil, for sharing it. And thanks very much, Rangarajan, for quickly conducting the quiz.
Yeah.
And the quiz, in fact, Mr. Rangarajan's introduction is he is the Senior Manager Quality at a company called Nash Industries Private Limited. Thanks, Rangarajan, for being us with the year. And the last winners, last 2 weeks, quiz winner, I would like to share it on the screen, and then we go ahead with open questions. And before that, even Meera Bharat also. So thanks very much, Nalai, for being the last week's quiz winner, where you get the book from Ms. Madhavi Raju on the book of Unconditional Self-Love. Thanks very much, Nalai, for answering the questions appropriately and then backing in the book. So this week we have an author of the week, Ms. Meera Bharat. So I would request a quick introduction about Ms. Meera. Let me take it a privilege to share. And then after that, 2 minutes to Meera to share about a book alone. Quickly we do that. Ms. Meera has been more than 20 plus years of experience. She's an author. She is also a coach. She's a leader. And she has done, she's written more than around 6 books, if I'm right, Meera. Am I right?
I've compiled 6 and written 2.
Oh, wow. That's a great go. That's true. Good one. And very nicely shared. So much more to share about Meera. In fact, she's also an online community builder, a storyteller, writing, and she holds a community hubs, right? And so far, which she also has this Maya Katha. That's what she's going to talk about today in short, where the stories dance and let's make the stories dinner with 3,000 plus members. Great, Meera, a lot more to know about you. In short, you can just tell us what this book, author of the week, as you are there today, as Maya Katha, right? In short, you can share it, and then we go for the open questions. Yes, Meera.
Good evening to all of you, and thank you, Prakash. Hi, Mr. Zaved. Nice meeting you here. And to all of you, thanks, Arun, for bringing me here. Before talking about my book quickly in 2 minutes, if I have to say, I follow this Rudyard Kipling's The 6 Serving Honest Men. I'm sure you all might be knowing it's about why, what, when, how, where, and who. So if I've written the book, it's on these lines. So Maya Katha, and yeah, that's my minion.
Wow, good one.
So, yeah. So I call myself as a growthpreneur, wherein I work with people, helping them to help their emotional and the mental well-being space. And I worked in the corporate for close to 15 to 16 years in the HR recruitment, employee engagement, and all these aspects. So the book happened when these 6 questions were there in my mind and when my minion happened in my life. Her name is Maya, and that's how the book also happened, Maya Katha and Illusion Holding the Reality.
Good one.
So it's a challenge which I took for 100 days. About happiness, when somebody told me like I would want you to talk about happiness, and it wasn't one, because when I was writing on the 10th day, my dad was on his deathbed, and how can I call that as a happiness? So then I realized it's a learning. So each and every day is a learning, and I started blogging about it 100 straight days, and it kind of resonated with many people. Like every child, when somebody appreciates your work and you feel like cloud 9, right? And I compiled my book, and there it is, Maya Katha and Illusion Holding Reality. It's a small nugget. I mean, you can just sit and finish it like in 45 minutes or less than an hour. And that's a book. Yes, I have compiled 6 more books, and the community that I run, are with storytellers, writers, trainers, and all the industry veterans across industries, with 3,000 plus members organically. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Meera, for sharing a quick
Most
brief
welcome.
about yourself and your book.
And
And
just
I
to add
understand.
a last line, like Mr. Zaved said, you are your own benchmark. You need to
Yes.
beat it and you need to repeat that, because it's an excellence is what we build more than looking at the perfection.
Wonderfully shared. True,
Yeah.
true. In fact, I did like that quote of it's not more about the perfection, it's more about the excellence. And that's where we need to strive for, and we cannot stop ourselves in terms of their perfection alone. Good one. Thanks, Meera. It's awesome. And congratulations for this respective book, Maya Katha. Good one. And with that, I will also, Arul, please share Ms. Meera's link, I mean, the LinkedIn profile link, the book link on the chat box. It will help people to get connected. Also, Arul, I would request to share the LinkedIn IDs of Ms. Varsa, Mr. Zaved Akhtar also on the chat box. The people who wish to stay connected with all these leaders, feel free by clicking on the respective chat box and taking it forward. So thanks very much. And Meera, awesome. And thanks very much. And I believe you're giving this one book as complimentary, that Maya
Yes.
Katha to our
In fact, that's what my daughter was telling me, like, you need to give the book, you need to give. I said, yeah, that's what uncle is also going to say, is what I was just telling. So yeah, so as soon as you said Maya Katha, she was here, very next moment.
Good. So that's the book of Maya Katha. So congratulations, Sindhil, for getting this book as complimentary from Ms. Meera. So good, congratulations. And then, I mean, Mr. Sindhil has been bagging every week after week or a week after the other, a lot of books. Wonderful. Keep it up and going. That shows the kind of an inspiration what you are having towards it. Great, Sindhil. Keep it up and going. And now is the time for the open questions. As we all said, and then two people already raised their hand, Mr. Devarayan and Ms. Anuradha. So, Mr. Zaved, sir, we have two questions. So quickly we can take. I would request Mr. Devarayan first ask the question, and then I come to Ms. Anuradha. Yes, Mr. Devarayan, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks,
Can you introduce yourself in short, and then please go ahead with the question.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Devarayan. I'm heading compliances for Hitachi Energy Group of companies in India. Very nice to hear from Zaved on the mission, what he spoke about, right? Like, it was very, very inspiring, and he explained the whole thing, like from how it was, but the Bangladesh, the country and the company started helping the country grow, so that the company also grow. It's wonderfully explained. So just wanted to ask one thing, like, you have also mentioned in your presentation about the women workforce, that increase in the women workforce in Bangladesh, like, maybe the countries like India, Bangladesh, and all, like, after getting the freedom, those days, how women were and all this stuff. So, like, what did you do to bring, as a company, what did you do to bring women on board to work in the companies? So how did you help?
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you for the question. One of the important elements of getting women on board is actually getting men to understand as well. The first starting point is that equal colleagues. So there's a lot of cultural immersion that we have to do within the business to understand, because we've all grown in a very patriarchal society, and we are all biased by our cultural norm and society, and we have all of this. So we need to really break many of these myths, because you typically have this whole thing: if there's a woman who gets promoted, you think that a woman is not qualified, and absolutely no reason. Actually, it's the other way around. The women are much more productive than men. So actually, it makes more sense for businesses to have women. Look at my business itself. 95% of my product are actually sold by our shoppers are women of what we sell as Unilever. And it's so important to make sure that we get that. So there is a lot about cultural and social immersion that we have to do within the organization. Second, there are also very small, subtle things that we have to do. So when I had my ASMs or RMs or even sales officers who were women, my distributors did not have the infrastructure for a women's toilet. So it's a very basic thing, and a lot of time we overlook. So we actually had to map across the country and make sure that we actually have many of these logistics. Second is, many cases, despite all the changes, some cases my female managers, let's say, especially in sales, have to stay late. And there is always a security and safety concern. So we actually have personal guards for my woman manager. Not that we need to have it, but for her to feel safe. So a lot of these changes that you need to make so that you make this whole organization female friendly. For instance, we have one of the largest creche, even at Hindustan Unilever, we've actually got one of the largest kindergarten as well, because we have a lot of women managers who have young children. So you really need to create an environment in your work environment to and make sure that you're able to really create an environment that encourage and make it a female-friendly organization. So lots of work has been done across the business, soft ones as well as hard ones, to make the whole environment conducive for women. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, David. Actually, now I'm working in Hitachi Energy, and earlier I was working for a company where I have visited many of your Indian outlets, right? Goa, your Bangalore, your Hosur factory, your Mysore coffee factory, means Unilever's. I have visited 12 plus of your factories in India, so I know the care you take. So just wanted to get
Wonderful. And I'm happy that you visited. So wonderful.
Seen basically from the compliance background, as you mentioned, like crush and all the infrastructures, like the washrooms and all. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Devryan, for asking the question. And the next question is from Ms. Anuradha. Would like to share the question, please, Anuradha? Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Prakash. Happy to have this opportunity. Good evening, Mr. Akhtar. And this is Anuradha here. I head the HR function for quantity oxides and chemicals, and based out of Chennai. Well, I would like to ask you, in a country like Bangladesh, where your staff will also be from various other industries, how do you ensure you convey the purpose and values to your employees with the meaning and the intent that you originally had?
Very good question, Anuradha. And I think you had the question on the chat box as well.
On the chat box, yes.
Yes, I saw that. So look, one of the things that we do, we actually do something called a purpose workshop, where we actually help each employees to identify what is their purpose in life. What is the purpose that they want to do? It has nothing to do with work itself. The moment you're able to have this self-discovery journey of what is your purpose, and then you realize that drives them. So for instance, my own personal purpose is to unleash the potential of people. So what excites and drives me when I see many of my team, my colleagues and everyone fosters, that itself motivates. And that's how you built in, because then you know that, the best place is you could actually have a purpose which is very different from your company. Then you know for a fact that it's not really my right match. And you probably have to do something, your calling is different. And ideally, you should see an overlap of your personal purpose and your company. And that's where the sweet spot lies, where you know that the reason I'm doing it, and I guess that's why I've been sticking around for so long, because I personally believe, and my company purpose actually has a huge overlap between the two of them and excites me every day. So which is why my team, and it might sound a bit cheesy as well, but every day morning, I get excited to come and sell a bit of soap, a bit of soup. And I still get excited every day. And that's what really drives me. I hope that helped you to answer.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anuradha, for asking the question.
Thank you.
And Mr. Zaved, in case if you have time permits, can we ask one more question? The chat box already from Mr. Rajiv Muteda. Is it okay? Can we take that? So the question is shared chat box. Mr. Rajiv, if you're there, you can always give an unmute option, or if you want me to share the question on behalf of you, I will read it out. Okay, the question is, what steps are taken for inculcating values in the employees? You're the first person who asked this question in the chat box. I just redrafted it again on the chat box now.
So one of the things is that as an organization, we've got a clear code of business principle, what we call the code of business principle, where we say what is for us as an individual to operate. And what we make sure every year, there's actually courses being taken for people to educate them. And for us, the importance of value is absolutely non-negotiable. And what I mean about the importance of values, we educate people of doing the right thing when no one is watching. Now, there's a subtle difference. A lot of time we tend to think that if nobody's watching, it's fair game. But the reality of it is never a fair game. And I think when you're able to inculcate that, that's when you really have the high standards of value. So what we do is making sure that across the business, we have that. We also have a system where people are able to call out if they see something that is not in congruence with the organization value system. This is a huge journey. What you have to do is over a period of time, you need to make sure that you're able to take your people along and you educate them. You also have to take the difficult call of the harder right than the easier wrong. In many cases, you'll find people who are not incongruent with your value system. And in our sort of operating environment that we have in South Asia, for example, and I've worked extensively across South Asia and Southeast Asia, that's unless you have a high level of standard for it, you will never really stand out in the business. So that's the answer. It is a process of educating people, making sure you reinforce every time, you take people along. It's also a system and process for people to call out when they see something that is not incongruous, where we have a whole system. Either we take corrective action, disciplinary action, or even coaching and guiding to people.
Wow. Awesomely shared. And I completely believe that it's a process, as you rightly shared, and inculcating the values in the employees. And one is when people are seeing, we may be honest, but when people are not seeing, are we honest? And that's one thing, very big catch moment is what we need to really understand for every person. And that's what is values, actual real values. Great, wonderfully shared, Mr. Zaved Akhtar on the same. And with this, we're coming to an end. If any other questions are there, as time is also pressing, it's coming a little closer to an hour. If you have any questions, you can share them in the chat box and we take it on the behalf at the end of our program. We also have a quick networking where all the leaders will be given an opportunity to introduce yourself so that you all know each other. And that's what will happen after 7:30, after we come to an end of this particular episode 83. So before we end the episode, I would request Mr. Sendil, who is the quiz winner for today as well, good Sendil, to quickly summarize what are the key pointers so that people who might have missed on today, that can be added on the group and that will add value. And after that, we'll have a small vote of thanks from Mr. Pankaj Vyas. So yes, Mr. Sendil, over to you for a quick summary of the program.
Yeah, thanks for unmuting me, and thanks for the opportunity, Prakash. As time keeps pressing, let me make my message very short and focus only on the key takeaways. Coming to the Zaved Akhtar's key bulletins, point 1 is make people deliver with positive mindset, excel with perfection, and delegate responsibility and not accountability. It means that give people with more power than the leader take the accountability on the ownership. They're coming with the right people, the right bus, have right capabilities, drive for performance with a growth mindset, like good to great and driving values. And one thing to be highly resilient is self-motivation. And second is the personal mastery to do better with the depth of practice is like how we excel for exam, makes an employee to sustain or to grow in a business mindset, and always and every time challenge yourself and see the best within you and try to beat your last best performance and see the better version of yourself. Now coming to the women workforce empowerment or women workforce power, then it came up with the women are more productive than men and always try to facilitate them with the basic amenities in the women workforce, within women workforce, to bring in better culture and strong binding. And coming to the winning strategy of Unilever is conducting the purpose workshop on periodical basis to unleash the hidden potential within the employees to help them to foster forward. Coming to the code of values, Unilever comes with zero tolerance as doing the right thing even when no one is watching. And the last but not least is the find out the people who are not congruent with the value system and reinforce with the code of values. So these are the key takeaways from today's session. Thank you very much.
Wonderfully shared, Sendil. I believe I understand that you have taken the small nuances also whatever you were speaking. It is just not the pointers or slides which you shown. It is the pointers which you spoke is more important. Thanks very much, Sendil, for taking that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Prakash.
Yes, definitely. And just introduce is from Sendil Kumar is from Daimler India. Thanks very much, Sendil. And finally, we go with a vote of thanks, and I invite Mr. Pankaj Vyas from Visa Training to share a specific vote of thanks for our guest, Mr. Zaved Akhtar. And let me also end from my side as well, and then we go for our networking to introduce. Zaved, I really like the 3 pointers you shared: runs with purpose, people with purpose, finding company with purpose. Ultimately, what I understand is purpose is the key. And if the purpose is clear, let it be a brand, let it be a company, let it be people, growth is always there for them. And that's where even we always look forward. Thanks very much. And with that, over to you, Pankaj, for a word of thanks for this episode 83.
Thanks, Prakash. Thank you so much. Right. It was really wonderful, Mr. Zaved, to hear you. Okay. And it was like, a man on a mission to grow people, to grow organization, and to grow the country. And the kind of conviction which I can see on your face really gives us this confidence that when we practice to do it, that shows in our work. So thank you so much for sharing the valuable insights, Mr. Zaved. It was really nice to hear you. It was a very power-packed presentation. Thank you once again. So before me sharing about the next week leader, let me quickly share again the purpose of the community. For the visitors who are attending for the first time, Leaders Connect 360-degree is an hybrid model leadership community where every week on a Wednesday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:15, we invite a top management leader from the Reputed Corporate Company to share the solutions for our real-time leadership challenges, either on leading self, leading others, or leading your business, like how we have seen Mr. Zaved Akhtar today. This Leaders Connect 360 online leadership community also gives an opportunity to network with the people on the last Wednesday of every month through online, and once in 3 months with a direct networking at each city to network with working professionals for personal, professional, or social needs. That's when we call it as Leaders Creating More Leaders. If you wish to join our community, please click on the WhatsApp link, group links, which is on your chat box, and you will be able to join us to receive weekly updates or call us on the number shared on the WhatsApp, and then we will add you in our community. So now I'm happy to introduce the next week leader, Mr. Anidya Ghosh, Associate Partner at IBM. And the topic would be Becoming the Leader of Tomorrow. Zoom link for the next week episode will be shared through WhatsApp group and social media platform shortly. Members who wish to be the panel discussion leader can give your names on the WhatsApp group or kindly interact with Mr. Arul. So, Mr. Zaved, thank you so much once again for spending your time and giving us such an insight to all of us. So, I would like to thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Zaved. It's been awesome. And we have a final thank you video for all. And after that, we start. So, Mr. Zaved will stay in touch with you on the LinkedIn itself and also through Mr. Pratik. I'd also like to thank Mr. Pratik, who was coordinating on behalf of you. And then thanks, Pratik, for being in here with us for the episode. And thanks for your time to bring Mr. Zaved here to us as well. And so all happens with Zaved, your mission to come and share your experiences on our platform. So thanks, and over to you, Arun.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I'll
you.
take
Thank
leave
you,
now. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank
Pleasure
you.
being
Yes. Yes, sir. Arun, over to you for the video. So great. So thank you all for being in. And now is the time for a quick introduction of all and people who are here for the first time or maybe regularly have been coming. And I will kindly stop the respective recording so it helps. And we all